LiSTNR production.
Hello, it's Antoinette Lattouf here with the Weekend Briefing. It's the place where we get to hang out and chat with some pretty impressive people behind the headlines. Today I'm joined by Steph Claire Smith, and if you're not already one of her million-plus followers on social media, let me fill you in. Steph is kind of an OG influencer because she became an influencer back when it wasn't even a fully fledged idea or career path. She started out as a model, she went on to become a bit of a fitness icon online, and now she's an entrepreneur, a mum, and the co-host of the massively popular health and wellbeing podcast, KICPOD. Steph and I talk a bit about everything, from the Oatzempic craze to whether skinny shaming online is really a thing, and also why she has a full-blown obsession with chicken wings. And stick around because later in the show, the weekend list with Helen Smith is your guide to what to watch, see, do, and eat and listen to, and everything in between. But first, let's get into it with Steph Claire Smith. Steph, welcome to the Weekend Briefing. It's always lovely chatting to someone who's part of the LiSTNR podcast family.
Yeah, it's always nice chatting to someone from the LiSTNR family. Thank you so much for having me.
There is a lot about you online and you have a very large and loyal fan base, but I want you to tell me something that people don't know about you. It can be anything, like a phobia or the weirdest job you've ever had or a vegetable that makes you gag. Give me something new.
Okay, I'll go really random. So I'm obsessed with chicken wings. Like they've always been my favourite food.
Me
Any
too.
kind of glaze, any flavour, whatever. I just love chicken wings, and I still eat the ends of the bones, and I've done that since I was a little girl. And I remember when I got my braces, they went through all the lollies and, you can't have gum, like all of this stuff that you can't eat because it might affect your braces.
Yeah.
And then they kind of ended with also you have to be really careful when chewing meat off a bone. And I started crying because of the idea that I was not going to be able to eat my chicken bones, which I still did. And I broke my braces like 3 times.
I love that. I love that reaction. Like it's warranted, crying over chicken bones. Very
yes.
good. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for going deep. Thank you for sharing that with me. So your podcast and your business, KIC, aims to help people lead a healthier and happier life. 2 things that sound great that everybody wants. But what is it that you reckon holds most people back?
I think it's this idea that you can't take small steps, that so many of my friends fall down the kind of trap of having to jump on a fad diet or a challenge or whatever, and they go from 0 to 100. And I get why that can kind of kick people's motivation into gear sometimes, but it's very, very, very rarely sustainable. And it's if you're looking to kind of have those sustainable, healthy choices and everything, you got to take baby steps. That's whether you're talking about adding in some nutrition into your diet or moving your body a little bit more. You can't do everything all at once. So when you see things like, I don't know, people's daily morning practices or these things and you're like, oh my God, I'm inspired by that. Maybe take one thing from what they're doing and try that. Like if it's a 5-minute meditation, maybe try that instead of the 5-minute meditation, the 20-minute workout, the walk along the block, the breathing exercises at the beach, the skincare routine or whatever of everyone's dreams. Every morning will be a little bit too much for you if you're not doing any of it already. So baby steps, find stuff that you enjoy that works into your lifestyle and, kind of happiness and feeling well will come for sure.
And how do you respond to that? Like you mentioned, your friends will come with these big goals, whether it's your friends or your audience. And I have people like that. And sometimes even in my family, and they're like, as of tomorrow, no alcohol, no coffee. And I'm doing intermittent fasting and I'm going to go to the gym 24 times a week. It's just going to be the new me. And that balancing act between being supportive and going, great, I want you to be more healthy, and then going, I give you till Wednesday.
Yeah. No, totally. A lot of my loved ones know exactly what I do and what I've been through as well. So I think if when they're coming to me, they'll kind of make it clear on whether or not they just want me to like listen and be like, yep, cool, have fun with that. Or if they're looking for some advice on like how it could maybe be a little bit more sustainable. But it is funny. I mean, for years, my partner, my husband, Josh, he was 0 to 100, like a yo-yo with his routine. He just couldn't find an exercise that would really stick with him that he enjoyed, and kind of just kept falling out of it and then wouldn't do any sort of movement for months on end, then would feel really lethargic and moody. And then I'd be like, maybe it's movement, like maybe and try and like ease someone into it, but they've got to want to do it as well. So yeah, I'm just really conscious of that and, you know, letting people find their own journey in health. But I'm here for anyone that wants some advice from someone who's tried a lot of different things.
Well, fads come and go, products come and go, routines come and go. In 2024, what were the biggest, I guess, kind of fads or trends that you saw?
I think one that upset me the most was the Oatzempic, one that was online. It was basically like this oats smoothie that was supposed to kind of mimic some of the I suppose what people perceive as good side effects of Oatzempic, and just some of the claims that people were saying that were happening, you know, when jumping on this and doing this every day, were really upsetting and also super triggering. So that's the first one that comes to mind, really. But there were so many, and the thing is I feel like with social media, Instagram had come a long way, I feel, in that space of health and wellness and like not necessarily being so restrictive. And then it's almost like it's come back, especially with TikTok. It's like it's come back, and the younger generation are unfortunately now getting fed a lot of the messaging that we did, or when I say we, I'm a millennial, on the early days of social media, only it's kind of like disguised as something else. So it's really tricky, and it is upsetting that a lot of it is still popping up, because unfortunately when you're really, really insecure about something, like your body, health goes out the window, and it did in my mind when I was younger and I was just trying to be as small as possible or look a certain way. I wasn't thinking about being healthy. I was just thinking about being small. And so it's really easy to kind of fall for all of these different things, particularly when, unfortunately, they're not coming from experts that you might see online. They're just coming from everyday people that you can relate to, and you just want to believe it's going to work for you too. So it's upsetting that you still see so much of it.
You said the Oatzempic fad was triggering. How so?
I think it's just that a lot of the claims that came up, like that you would rapidly lose weight and all of this stuff like bloating and everything was gone, annoyed me, because there were certain trends. Like, I mean, when Instagram was kind of first starting out, the one that comes to mind is like those teas that were basically laxatives, which I definitely took and thought, oh, cool, this is making me feel smaller. But really, pretty soon I realized it was just, you know, TMI for some people, but making me go to the toilet a lot and, you know, sucking a lot of the water out of my body and dehydrating me a little bit. And that was giving off this illusion that I was like maybe losing weight or looking smaller, but it certainly wasn't healthy. And anything that drops weight that quickly is not healthy. So I think that's why it was triggering for sure.
What I've been seeing lately on Instagram, and I'm not sure if it's coming up in your feed, is these pages which are kind of celebrating skinniness or like a pushback. Just because I'm skinny, you know, like a don't skinny shame, but it's disguised as don't skinny shame, but it's really like, look how tiny I am and I eat what I want and I have a low metabolism, a fast metabolism, and I can wear really super low rise jeans. Is that what you're saying? Because I hadn't previously seen content like that, and it's in my recommended, which is I think strange for me. But it's people boasting about not just skinny, like incredibly thin. Yeah. Is that something you're seeing as well?
To be honest, I haven't, but I have definitely noticed that, you know, body trends, they come and go. Even if you look like back to the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like there's been this different idealistic body type that's kind of trended over the decades. And I think even if it was, which some people perceived as like a really good thing, moving more towards strong and everything like that, also that body type isn't super attainable for a lot of people, and a lot of these body type trends come down to genetics, which you can't change necessarily. So I think when it comes to, I do feel like I have noticed that the trend is kind of easing towards that skinnier trend again. And look, I've got plenty of friends who honestly have the fastest metabolisms and really could eat whatever they wanted and they'll stay small and that's fine. And it's not like their fault that they're genetically made up that way. But I suppose it would be upsetting to hear if there was accounts, because I'm certainly not getting targeted by them, but celebrating that or anything, because it's kind of unrelatable to most people.
Yeah, and it's largely a genetic lottery.
Exactly.
So you are a model turned tech mogul and you work with your best mate, Laura. You guys met at Melbourne Fashion Week over a decade ago, and as I understand, you were both modelling at the time. You had an instant bond, and it sounds like the dream to work with your best mate. What has it been like working with your best friend?
Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. I couldn't have done it without her, and I look back at the journey. We've been working together for almost 10 years now, and I know she's said the same, and I think it's just because there's so much love and respect and we've had so much fun along the way and learnt so much together and also grown through our 20s together. Like we're both now in our early 30s and kind of started in our early 20s, and there's just so much development as people personally in that time. So it was really cool to go through that together as well as learning how to run a business together. But, you know, it doesn't mean that it's been super easy. We've had to have some like really honest and tough conversations, which we've gotten so much better at approaching in the last couple of years for sure. I think maybe that comes with maturity, but also, you know, there's bigger pressures, bigger responsibilities now, and it's more important than ever for us to be incredibly honest with each other. And again, I think because there's so much respect there for each other, and because we're also incredibly aligned in the business goals and our ambitions and in what we want for our community, that's always really helped. I think it could be really tricky to work with a close friend or a family member if you're not aligned on those sort of things, like where you might want to take the business or what's kind of important to you in the company and what you're doing. But we're both super purpose-led, and everything we want to do is for the community. So that's definitely helped some of those trickier times in making decisions.
And I wonder, I would say asking for a friend, but I'm asking for me because I'm considering going into business with a friend, whether you sat down at the onset and thought, like, did a kind of a SWOT analysis of your characters and what you bring to the table, or had an exit strategy. Like, if this doesn't work, how do we end it? And where do we go from here?
We were really, I suppose, like when we first started, number one, we had no idea it was going to grow into what it has today. Like it was beyond our wildest dreams. We started with an ebook, and it was something that we could both manage outside of what we were doing. So Laura was kind of part-time modelling plus studying law, and then I was full-time modelling on the side. So the ebook was kind of this passion project that we wanted to do together, and we were really excited to see how it went, but we also didn't put too much pressure on it having to take off and this to be our new kind of career direction. But it was really when it did and the community started to communicate with us of how much they were loving the recipes and kind of wanting more from us that we got a little bit excited about like, okay, what do we do next? Like, this is really cool. What else can we do together? We then created a website together. Again, that was on the side of what we were doing. And it wasn't until we launched the app in 2018 that both of us spent a lot more time kind of like on Kik than basically anything else. From there, obviously, like even at the start, our team was us two and then I think one or two other people. It was really, really small. And we didn't have our dev team in-house either. So it was a really small team. We had to wear a lot of different hats. A lot of our skill sets at the time we felt like overlapped a little bit, but we got through it. And then I think it was a couple of years later when our team started to really grow and we had a couple of different people in leadership who would say, you know, maybe let's give you guys some roles rather than just being co-founders, because that way the team know, you know, if you've approved that, like I don't need to go to the other person or it's just clearer on who's looking after what. And that was really cool. It was weird for me because I hate like having kind of like a role title or anything. I think I'm such a collaborative person. I'm like, I just want to work with everyone.
Yeah.
So give me that job. But it was really, really important, particularly as the team grew. So Laura's the CEO. She's across all the operations, team management, the financials, and everything. And then obviously the overall bigger strategy we work on together. And then I'm Chief Community Officer. So anything that kind of touches the community, whether that's the experience in the app, and so I work with the developers and the design team on that, or the content that goes in the app, like who our trainers might be or what content we might need. I work with the content team on that. And then also social media and genuinely being in touch with the community with things like surveys and also getting to meet with them for events and stuff like that. So it's been really cool because along the 10 years, we've definitely been able to identify, whilst we're aligned on so many things, we also have some really cool differences in our strengths. And that's been awesome because it's meant that we can kind of lean more into those things and trust that the other person's got it.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like it's kind of evolved and worked out naturally rather than being something kind of strategic and planned from the outset.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, I'm so glad that worked for you, and I'll be using you as a case study to get my girlfriend over the line. I did notice recently on your social media that you posted a picture of your beautiful son and for the first time had blurred out his face. Previously, you had shown his face. What led to that decision? Because I know it's something a lot of parents with a public profile have to consider.
Oh, for sure. I think for Josh and myself, my partner, it was more so Harvey was getting to an age. He's 3.5 now. He's in daycare. He is kind of growing up into his little boy looks and everything. I feel like in the first couple of years they change like every week and they look so different all the time. And you're also they're in your care a lot more. But you know he's at daycare. He's getting looked after by other people a little bit more. So I think there was a few moments where like my mum would get recognised at a cafe when she was looking after him, but it wasn't that they recognised my mum, it was that they recognised him and would ask her, is that Steph Claire Smith's son? And that just made me feel so uncomfortable because I was like, he's not asking for this. He doesn't need to be recognised on the street when I'm not even with him. Like fair enough if I'm pushing the pram and someone recognises me, you put two and two together. But that just didn't sit well with me. So that was really the main thing. And also that he's getting to an age where he's saying like, I put the phone down or like, I don't want a photo or whatever. And so he's understanding a little bit more, but there's no way I could ask him, hey, bud, I've got 1.5 million followers. Do you mind me putting this video up of you doing this? And, you know, some of your kids at school or daycare might see their parents watching a video of you online or whatever. Like he wouldn't understand that. There's no way he would understand that. So it was just a conscious decision around that. And it didn't mean that, you know, we got rid of all his past pictures or anything online when he was younger. It was just something that we wanted to go moving forward with him until he's old enough to make that decision on his own, but he's years and years away from that. And, you know, with a second on the way, people have been asking me like, what are you going to do? Are you going to blur their face too? And the honest answer is I'm not really entirely sure yet. And I think that's okay. I think what we need to do is give parents and everything online a little bit of grace and patience. And we're all just working it out and what we feel comfortable, and everyone's going to be comfortable with different things. And if you change your mind in that too, that's okay. I know plenty of people who didn't show their baby's face for the first couple of years and now they do. And that's like, I think it is what it is. And it's okay if you completely disagree with that and that you wouldn't do that. I get it. But I think we just need to kind of leave each family to their own decisions.
Yeah, and that we're figuring it out. I think the other thing is, you mentioned your son Harvey when he's able to give consent, and that may change too. And I have two girls who are very different. And one's like, "Mummy, put me in everything," and I don't put my kids online for safety reasons and other reasons. But then my tween, who is a little more savvy on social media, is like, "I don't want to be shown. I don't have my consent." But when she was 6, she was like, "Mummy, photograph me, put me on."
Exactly.
So even in the space of her short life, their consciousness and understanding changes. And I'm not sure that, going, well, they're 5 and they give me consent is necessarily an informed and enduring decision. But you did mention you're pregnant with your second child. How are you feeling?
Good. I feel like I've turned a corner. I'm in that sweet spot. I mean, for me anyway, I know plenty of my friends were unfortunately sick until their baby popped out. But I am in this sweet spot in my second trimester that I'm getting a little bit of my energy back. The nausea's kind of eased, and other than having like a bump and some gas or burping or whatever, I'm feeling pretty good and pretty normal. So yeah, I'm very, very excited.
Well, another thing people online have a lot of opinions about, in addition to whether you should show your children or not, is to whether you should show your bump and how much, whether you should wear, what swimwear you should wear on the beach. And that's something you've recently responded to.
Yeah, I found it's really interesting. people are really quick to share their opinion on, I think particularly with mothers, what we wear and what we wear around our kids and everything like that. And I think what's a bit funny with me, I mean, content, you can't help who it goes to these days. Your followers may or may not see it, but it also may reach the other side of the world who have no idea who you are and your background. So, and also come from very different religious beliefs and all that sort of stuff as well. So I totally get that. But I think for me, for those who do follow me, and maybe have for a while, I was a bit confused why it was so shocking when I posted a video the other day in a small bikini around my son, because I started out as a lingerie and swimwear model. That's what was honestly 80% of my content when I first started Instagram. And yeah, I don't post as much of my body as maybe I used to, but that's just because I don't find myself in a bikini or on a set nearly as much as I used to, because, now we have the business that we run. It's not because I didn't want people to think that it was because, now I'm a mum and I don't feel comfortable to. I mean, I will admit there's absolutely been phases since having Harvey that I've gone through what a lot of women do, and you kind of feel like you're not yourself a little bit, or you question if you feel sexy anymore, and that's absolutely happened. But at the end of the day, smaller bikinis and that sort of thing, that's what I've always felt more comfortable in. If I wear full coverage stuff, for me, that's just, it doesn't feel like me. And I never wanted to kind of feel like I had to do that, for other people. It was like, what's going to make sense for me and my family. And of course, everyone has their own boundaries of what that looks like. But I was quite shocked with the uproar that came from people about me wearing a bikini that I didn't even consider that skimpy, to be honest. I've definitely worn less. But no, I just thought it was a really sweet moment with my son, and I didn't even think about me being in a bikini, because I was like, well, people have seen me in one before, and at the end of the day, it's just a body. So yeah, it was crazy.
And I understand that you were diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. How has that diagnosis changed your life?
Yeah, so that was maybe 4 or so months ago now. It's been somewhat of a relief, I would say, firstly, because especially through my business journey, there has been a lot of really, really negative self-talk going on internally that has really shook my confidence, particularly over my late 20s as the pressures of the business have grown and everything, that I've really questioned myself, and that I've honestly felt like I was an idiot, or that I was dumb, or I was lazy, or just this person who couldn't seem to get things done that other people could. And I just didn't understand it.
That's just despite all of your successes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And that exactly right. That was more so what I was focusing on a lot of the time. And I think that's just because it was a daily struggle. And I think for me, emotional dysregulation is something that was probably the biggest push for me to go and look into it a little bit more, or get some help, because there's things that just shouldn't rock me as much as they should, but it's because it's almost like a toddler tantrum. It's almost like these tiny little things that have happened, and overwhelm is happening in my head that I get into these meltdowns, and sometimes it's over being 5 minutes late to work, but I'm leaving the driveway feeling that stressed and that guilty about it, because it's something that in some weeks I find incredibly hard to do, is to get to places on time. And I just feel so terrible about myself in those moments that I'll leave the house fully bawling my eyes out because of how guilty I feel. And it's so little things like that, whereas, a neurotypical might be a bit annoyed at themselves for not necessarily being as organized to get out the house and at the right time of the day or whatever, but the next day they'll do better. It's the repetitiveness of it that was just getting to me. And so I think it was relieving. Right now, because I'm pregnant, I'm not taking any medication. But I've had plenty of people who have gone down that route. For some people it's worked, for some, and they've said it's absolutely life-changing. I think of a task that I need to do and I just do it. And for me, I'm I don't think I've ever experienced that simple thing. And then for other people, they've had to try a few different things. And for me right now, I'm just trying to understand it a little bit better and understand different ways that I can help manage it. I know it's not something I'm going to fix. I don't see myself as broken, but I know that there's different tools and ways that you can kind of help manage it a little bit on the daily. So I'm just working all of that out at the moment. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm going to give you 2 tips based on zero expertise. One is to, when you're committing to a time, always have ish at the end. So like I'll meet you at 9:15-ish. So that's what I do with my friends. So that gives me a 10-minute buffer. And the other thing, because you're pregnant, is just blame everything on the pregnancy. So that's going to give you some grace. This has not been tried and tested or endorsed by any experts, but try them, see how you go.
Oh yeah, I blame the pregnancy on everything.
I know that your page and your messaging and your business, they're always, very health focused and inspiring. But I kind of I'm really intrigued to know what pisses you off. Like, what makes you mad? Like, do you have road rage, or do you get super cross when someone gets your coffee order wrong? Like, there's got to be something that's not holistic about you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Road rage, not so much. I get annoyed at road rage. Like I get annoyed when, or I get annoyed if we're going, 5 kilometers per hour and someone won't let me merge, because I just feel like winding down my window and looking at them like I'll be one car in front of you.
Yeah.
What, we're all getting somewhere, obviously.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily get me to road rage. It's just a little bit of a pet peeve. I don't know. I have this weird thing where I feel really optimistic towards people. I think because I'm someone who can really let shit that's going on in my life affect the way I might be or I might show up. I find it really hard to fake that. And I suppose the more I'm learning about ADHD, there's definitely aspects where I absolutely mask how I'm actually feeling, no doubt. But I really feel feelings deeply. And so I think when someone is showing up, whether it's a friend or an acquaintance or someone at work, and maybe they're a bit moody or something's going on, I think I just automatically think there's something going on in their life. I'm not going to be upset with them or angry that something's not quite right. I'm just going to assume the best and that there's something else going on. So there's not too much that annoys me. I think I can't really spend too much time around people that constantly bitch or judge people. I can't handle that. That's something that I will openly kind of stop a conversation and be like, we don't know this person, let's move on from it. And maybe that's because I've copped judgment that I didn't think was necessarily valid or that I deserved in some way. So I don't know what it is, but yeah, sorry to annoy you. That
you just
not what you were looking for.
You just explained empathy and maturity, and I was looking for dirt.
Oh, I'm sure if my husband was sitting here, he'd probably have something to say that he knows ticks me off. So.
It's been a pleasure getting to know you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Steph Claire Smith, fitness influencer and co-host of KICPOD, which is part of the LiSTNR family. It is weekend list time. Helen Smith and I are here to help you out when you're opening the fridge, unsure what to make, when you're on your television and scrolling and no idea what to watch, or, maybe you need a bit of a push to get into the latest fitness fad. We've tried a whole bunch of stuff. We have no expertise other than our lived experience, and we are here to share it with you. Helen Smith, what are your tips?
My first recommendation is a YouTube channel called Jubilee. Now, Jubilee kind of popped off when the whole US election was happening, because these videos that I'm going to recommend, they're called their Surrounded series.
Okay.
And these are the titles of some of them. 1 pro-lifer versus 25 pro-choicers. 1 liberal teen versus 20 Trump supporters. 25 Christians versus 1 atheist. So how it works is you've got 1 atheist in the middle, right? And then they're surrounded by 25 Christians. These topics come up and they go ding, and they have to run in. Whoever wants to challenge that person in the middle runs in, steals the seat, and then they have a kind of debate.
Okay. For some reason, I thought this was going to descend into violence.
No.
Mob violence?
No.
Okay, very, very happy
No.
that it hasn't. Okay.
So pretty much they get people who, 1 person and then 20 people or 25 other people who have completely opposite views. And it's really interesting to watch because, you sit there and you feel uncomfortable sometimes, or someone says something and you're like, that's so wrong. Or you're like, I've never thought of that.
Yeah, right.
So it's so good because and they get millions of views, these videos.
Yeah.
But you're seeing views and perspectives that you're probably thinking about, but you don't actually ever see get played out. You don't actually see people debate and argue like this.
And you'd have to have pretty staunch views,
Oh, yeah.
especially if you're the one person in the 1:25 ratio, no matter what the topic is or which side of the pendulum you sit on,
Yes.
to sit there and to say certain things knowing that 25 people in the room are going to disagree with you.
Yes.
It's a certain type of individual.
It
that would
is.
do
And
that.
I mean, they're Americans.
Yeah,
It's
right.
such an American thing. I don't think we could have something like this in Australia because we've got the tall poppy syndrome, and even in the UK, like it's very similar.
Or people would harbour views like this but wouldn't have the
They
guts
wouldn't
to
have the
say
guts
it.
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so good to watch. And I think my favourite one is the one liberal teen, one woke teen versus 20 Trump supporters, because
And there's no rioting involved.
no writing, but it gets pretty heated.
Yeah.
And he kind of popped off after that. He's
Yeah.
only early 20s, quite young. And it's just really interesting to see these conversations play out in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting concept. The minute you said the title, it made me nervous because I thought like this
Oh,
was a
God.
kind of a
You feel
Colosseum
so awkward.
survival of the fittest type.
It kind of is, though.
You know.
When you see them running into the chairs to
Yeah.
sit down, you feel that, you feel that angst. You feel that, oh my
Okay.
God, what are they going to say? Because the questions are pretty provocative. Like the questions are made to get people angry.
Yeah, right. Okay, so that's on YouTube, Jubilee.
Jubilee. And it's their Surrounded series.
Wow. Okay. I will check that out. Sticking with the US, I have a podcast that just cracks me up and also makes my jaw drop. It's called Bad Hasbara. And so if you've heard the word Hasbara, it usually refers to propaganda that Israel uses through a function known in Hebrew as Hasbara. And so the subtitle or the tagline of this podcast is the most moral podcast in the world, which is a cheeky jab or a swipe at Israel continuing to say that it is the most or has the most moral army in the world. It's hosted by two blokes. It's a comedy podcast. One of them is Matt Lieb, he's a comedian, and Daniel Mattei, who's also Jewish. He's a composer and musician and also really quite funny. These are anti-Zionist Jews, and they unpack what they call the latest and greatest in US and Israeli propaganda. So it's as much about US politics as it is about Middle East politics. They have a bunch of different guests on. They started the podcast after October 7. They didn't intend to keep going.
Yeah,
they were
wow.
just like, we just want to unpack some of the crap that we're seeing. And obviously in the social media age and what has been different in this iteration of the long-standing conflict is the unpacking and the pushing back against propaganda and lies that were peddled through media that previously we just accepted because that's what we were told and more people were willing to believe it. They push back so hard that it makes me go, oh my God. But they can sort of get away with it in a self-deprecating way because they are Jewish. They can say things about their own communities and the divisions within their own communities ideologically in a way that you or I never could. So entertaining, so funny, plenty of jaw-dropping moments. Bad Hasbara. I would highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I really like that. And I like how cheeky they are with the name. My next recommendation is very white girl of me. It's Congee.
Why is that white girl?
Congee?
Yeah, I think it's Congee. I don't know how to say it either.
Congee.
Yeah.
Well, it's white girl of me because I am
You
just
feel like you've discovered it?
No, well, I feel like for Mum and I, we were like, wow, because like, well, Mum's Italian. All we really eat is pasta and, stuff like that. But it's Chinese rice porridge and it's savory. And I've been seeing it on my TikTok for ages. It looks revolting. Like, if you're not sure what it is, it just looks like white splodge.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't look that amazing, but then you have it. Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah.
I got mushroom and chicken, and Mum, I think, got pork and something else. And we went back and I got a shrimp one, and like, I loved it. And the fried breadsticks you have with this rice porridge stuff, and it's all savory. It's just so yummy. But I was like, why have I never tried this? Like, how have I never tried this? I work like around so many like Chinese food, Japanese food.
Yeah.
Like we work in the city.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, no one's ever told me about congee.
How did you not know? Look, to be fair, I've tried it. I don't love it. I am a soup of all cuisines lover. I don't know if congee is considered a soup because it looks like splodge.
It's more of a porridge. Like, it's rice porridge.
Yeah.
It's so good. Well, not for everyone, but for me, I'm sad I've only just discovered it, 27 years later.
Well, there you go. And there are so many different flavors for you to enjoy. So I look forward to more Congee recommendations.
I'll tell you about it.
So my final recommendation this week is hot Pilates. So lately I have been trying to push my body in ways that I've never done before, like strong body, strong mind.
Yeah.
I'm quite claustrophobic. A friend of mine suggested I try Bikram yoga, which is also very kind of like middle class Bikram yoga.
Yeah.
Like when you come into Bikram yoga and, it's super expensive and you're not.
So expensive.
Yeah, it's like really middle class. So I got a 10-day pass.
That's
for
what I do.
$37.
I do them for the different studios.
Yes. That's what I was going to recommend, which is cheeky, how you do it on the cheap. I'm like, I'm just going to try it out. $37, because sometimes it's like $37 for one session. If you want to do 3 a week, I'm like,
That's ridiculous.
I can't afford that. So it was a way to ease me into Bikram yoga because it's only an hour and Bikram yoga is an hour and a half. And I tend to be quite claustrophobic. But this is an hour when you are holding weights and mini bands. And I do love Pilates, but this kind of intensity is like nothing I've done before. I have never sweat. Like I'm pretty sure I was sweating from my eyeballs. I was dripping and I'm not a sweater. I can do an exercise class and like have a bit of flushed cheeks, but I don't have any sweat on me. I don't have any sweat on me. I stink, but I have no sweat on me. I have not I look like I haven't done anything. I came out of this dripping in sweat and there's nothing else you can focus on because you're so focused on every movement and every breath you're taking. It really was it took me away from everything on my mind, and I have a lot on my mind at the moment. And it helped me ease into Bikram yoga, which was an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my relationship with hot Pilates and Bikram yoga has come to an end at the end of my 10-day
trial.
10-day trial. It was a short but sweaty, lovely love affair.
I'm sure
it was intense. It was hot. It was sweaty.
But it had to end.
So I do recommend trying it out. And if you want to be cheeky, try it out at multiple different places and make that 10 days a couple of months if you want to. Okay, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for being with us and tuning in. It is always a pleasure. If you want more of the weekend briefing, you can find us on the LiSTNR app. Download the LiSTNR app in the App Store and follow us there. Otherwise, follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. And while you're at it, give us a rating and a review. You can rate and review every episode if you're so inclined. The team will be back on Monday morning where they'll have the latest headlines straight to your headphones, along with fascinating deep dives. Stay safe, everyone. Catch you next week.